Hi there, this is Datila, and welcome to the TNAIW GoGo Power Rankings show. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts, the godfather of the Power Rankings, the one and only Lucha. And of course, the star of the show. He has no relation to Steve Maclin, Burt Maclin.
That was a great intro, and I like that little addition of the star. I like that.
I'm glad you like it. Okay. So we have a lot to discuss today, but before we get into it, who do you guys think made the power rankings this week?
You know, it's all I gotta say is I kind of left a nice little cliffhanger on last week's episode. If we thought the winner of the Golden Shooter would be on the rankings, so I want to see where he ended up personally.
Same. I definitely do. Bert, who do you think is going to end up in the?
Yeah, I think just the easiest bet each week is to say that the person who wins the main event will be somewhere on the rankings each week, and so I'm going to agree with both of you.
Same. All right. Well, with that being said, Bert, tell us how you joined the Power Rankings Committee.
All you have to do is hit me up on Twitter at Burt Maclin 11 and just quick DM or message, and we'll get you in there. If you watch Impact every week and get out a quick top 10. That's all that matters. So, Burt Maclin 11 on Twitter.
The Burt signal's coming soon, alongside the Burt Mobile.
Was that it outside? I heard that. Was that it?
No, that wasn't.
Yeah, that's a Burt Mobile.
Oh shit!
Just kidding. All right, let's play the power rankings. Number 10, Callahan in the Design. Number 9, The Foundation, Jonathan Gresham. Number 8, Steve Maclin. Number 7, World Champion, Josh Alexander. Number 6, Ace and Bay, Bullet Club. Number 5, Tag Team Champions, The Death Doss. Number 4, World Champion, Mickey James. Number 3, Digital Media Champion, Joe Hendry. Number 2, X Division Champion, Trey Miguel. Number 1 contender, Rich Swann. Wow, okay, so this is definitely an interesting top 10. I will say that right now. Let's go from the top. Number 10, Callahan and the Design. So Sami Callihan was a part of the Golden Six Shooter to determine the number 1 contender to face Josh Alexander. Now, I feel like Sami Callihan got to the number 10 spot because of the way things played out towards the end. He made it to the finals, but ended up losing. So, which is why I feel like he's at the number 10 spot. Lucha?
Well, really, that's basically it. That and coupled with the fact that he was the Design were 7 last week or something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood.
They were number 10 last week too.
Yeah, so they kind of stayed a little steady. They were the ones that I actually had my eye on. Like, if Sammy would have won, then I wouldn't have been surprised that they would have bounced up to number 1. But that's not what happened. Neither scenario. So I'm cool with it, I guess. Just to put them on my personal rankings, I had the Motor City Machine Guns at 10, just because they're champs, really.
Yeah. Okay. Bert, any comments on number 10?
Yeah, him being number 10, the Design being number 10, he lost the match, so they're not gaining any ground, but staying in the same spot because he did make it all the way to the end of the match. I'm totally fine with that.
Okay. So we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
Number 9, The Foundation, Jonathan Gresham. I know he won his match, or as Lucha likes to call this, an enhancement match. I was going to call it what it was, a squash match. But I think for me personally, Jonathan Gresham shouldn't be having these enhancement matches. But I guess, they're trying to make him out to be a beast. So number 9, I think that's perfect for him just because it was an enhancement match. Lucha?
Yeah, I mean, you got to stack up dubs and to, get to be taken as a a serious threat within whatever division you want to be in, and then Gresh coming off of the loss at Hard to Kill, he kind of does need to start back down lower on the totem pole and work his way back up. For him to make it to number 9 is crazy. I didn't even have him on mine, but good to the committee. They respect John Gresham and his ability to tear body parts apart.
Yeah, they do. Burt?
Yeah, I wouldn't even with the back-to-back squash matches. And by the way, I've always liked zucchini more than squash, but that's
so he's out here having zucchini matches.
There you go. That's fine. I like that. That's better. But I wouldn't even put him on the list just because, again, one is fine, but two back-to-back enhancement talent matches, it didn't impress me that much. So.
Right, understandable. Like I said, it's just an enhancement match, so
put it on Dart. I mean, put it on
BTI. You mean?
Mixing my shows up.
Yeah, you are
mixing up the C shows.
All right, number 7, our world champion Josh Alexander. I get why he's number 7. I mean, all he was being interviewed backstage, so where else could he have landed? Certainly not top 5. I know he's our world champion, and I know champions carry a lot of weight in the power rankings, but he was just backstage. He wasn't involved in any segment or anything like that.
He did run out at the end when the design started to do design things and want to kick everybody's ass. Josh and Frankie kind of ran out and helped clear the ring a little bit. So he did get physical. I guess.
He did, but he wasn't in a match. I mean,
he's still our Lord and Savior world champion,
So you think him
that's captain right there. That's captain.
But you think him being interviewed backstage and just getting physical earns him a spot, higher?
Well, I mean, in the past, people have gotten on the power rankings for just having their name said. So for this situation, it'd be Josh who just had an interview and, a run out, and it's the world champ. Yeah, I'll at least give him 5 just off the strength of all of that. At least 5. He was actually 3 on mine because I'm like, well, he's the champ.
But is he a champ? Sorry, I just
yes. He's Cap, as I call him. He's captain. He's the captain of the team. What team hadn't really happened yet, but
yeah. All right, Burt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it carries weight in being champion, and also just like when you're anytime you get an appearance from the world champion, that has to matter something. So him being 7. That's not too high. No one should be the people he's ahead of. I don't think they deserve to be higher than him. So I'm fine with where he's at. And again, he's the world champion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He is a world champion. I just feel like he didn't do much in this episode to warrant anything lower. But
he showed up.
Yeah,
he showed up.
Yeah, he showed up. He showed up.
He came to work. He came to work.
Yeah. Okay. Number 6, Bullet Club, Ace and Bay getting a major win over the major players. So I'm honestly really happy to see Chris Bay and Ace Austin pick up wins here. I cannot wait to see them eventually become tag team champions. I think they're gonna we're gonna run it back, them in the Motor City Machine Gun. So I'm really happy that they're on this week's power rankings. Lucha?
But do they have the potential as tag champions to make it the number 1 is the real question. And I mean, that remains to be seen, even though both Ace Austin and Chris Bay on their own they performed decently well on the power rankings throughout the last couple of years. So maybe them as a unit, as champs, might even get them they might have a good case for number 1 and maybe even a stronghold on number 1 week after week after week.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can reach that full potential. As far as where they are this week, I wouldn't have put them a little higher. They were kind of in the same situation as John Gresham, fresh off a loss from the pay-per-view. And this wasn't necessarily an enhancement match, but it kind of was. So, yeah, they're in the same situation. So I have no
Are you calling the major players jobbers here?
I mean,
Okay. Burt, what are your thoughts on Ace and Baby number 6 and other major players jobbers?
Well, first of all, I don't see how you could, if you beat anybody, a team called with the word major in it, that's not a big deal. The word major's in it. And then as far as their jobber, I said it on a few shows back, I think Cardona could be in Impact a world champion. As Myers, I think he was great as the digital media champion. That's his ceiling. I think they're fine as a tag team. I like them. So, and then as far as Ace and Bay, I would have put them a little higher. I think that they're one of the best things on the show. I think they work very well together. They've been tagging for like a year, and their moveset, the way they work together, it all flows together nicely. Their finisher, it is phenomenal, and phenomenal. AJ used to be in the Port Club, but I want to see him as tag champs, but I don't want to see Motor City Machine Guns run and just yet. But I think by the midpoint of the year, we will see them as champions, and they should. They deserve it. And they're going to sell a lot of merch because Bullet Club sells a lot of merch. Both their shirts are awesome. So yeah. And I would have put them a little higher, maybe 5. But yeah, no, I'm fine with where they're at.
So Rebellion or Slammiversary, you think, for them to win the tag titles?
Slammiversary would be a big stage. Rebellion, that's it's in Canada, but Slammiversary is one of the big pay-per-views of the year. So Slammiversary, I would like to see that.
Okay, all right. Number 5, I'm really happy about number 5. The tag team champions, the Dead Dolls, finally made the power rankings this week. I'm so happy. They've been MIA from the power rankings, and I'm really happy that they made this week. They got a big win over Giselle Shaw and the returning Tara, but I'm so happy to see them on this week's power rankings. Lucha?
Yeah, and they kind of settled my tie situation from last week, how I had both of them sitting at 10 on mine, just based off of Death Dolls being the champs, but then Giselle having a win over them on the digital media exclusive. Good win for the Death Dolls this past week. I think them being so high on the ranks this week honestly might be a reflection on how much the committee wanted to put them on, to have them in their top 10, but for them to not get displayed to a point to where we could reward them on the top 10. It's kind of a big moment for the committee. The committee loves us in Death Dolls, so we're glad that they were able to get a win on TV, defend the belts, and come through with a top 5 spot.
Yeah, very happy. Burt, what do you have to say about the Death Dolls being number 5?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way that with them being on TV and winning a match, defending their titles, that they couldn't be on the top 10 at some position. I would think that'd be wrong for them not to be here at some point. And yeah, it was a fun match. It was a fine match. I think for me, it was more about the interaction between Giselle and Tara, which was great to see Tara back. She's a legend. She should be a Hall of Famer. So I hope we see her in the Impact Hall of Fame one day. But yeah, no, Death Dolls, I'm glad to see them finally get a win and be on TV defending the belts again. So yeah, I'm fine with where they're at.
All right. Number 4, world champion Mickie James. Mickie James, I feel like after last week where she had an impressive segment with Bullet Ray, to see her be at number 4, I mean, what you have to think about what she did on the show, which was be involved in a backstage segment with Jordan Grace. So kind of the difference between her and Josh, like Lucha said, Josh came out, got physical. Mickey was just back there. Lucha, thoughts on Mickey James being number 4?
Now, I mean, I wouldn't have put either Josh or Mickey as my number 1, but just the disrespect from the world champions are getting, both male and female. You know, it just didn't seem like this week their title status carried much weight in the ranks for Josh to be outside of the top 5 and Mickey to not be top 3, taking into consideration that the last time any of them lost, pretty sure Shark Boy was still with the company or something. It's been a while since they've lost. So for either not even a loss, just for a week off to kind of like do that much damage, it's crazy to me.
Burt?
Yeah, frankly, I'm gonna snap. I'm disgusted. I think she should have at least been top 3 because right now we're watching this like a Hall of Fame tour right here. This is almost like, like when a band would say this is the last one and they didn't mean it. This is like we're actually watching this means something right now. Mickey being champion, so I think she should at least be top 3 because we're watching like a Hall of Fame career most likely coming to an end. So I think people should have more appreciation for that.
Definitely, I do agree. I feel like Mickey James doesn't get a lot of credit or respect. The credit that she's due. I feel like she just doesn't get any of that, which sucks because she deserves a lot.
Yeah, for sure. It's like her her career has been so long, not even just with Impact, but also just with Impact. Like, if you think back, she was kind of not a day oneer, but she was there with Raven in the Asylum days. And for her to go from that to coming back in 2010, hardcore country, all the way to hell, and to see how she's just been in the Impact circle, like we're truly watching history.
Number 3, digital media champion Joe Hendry. I absolutely love Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. I do. I don't know about you guys, but I do.
I do.
And even though he only had a segment, it was a pretty hilarious segment. He made a music video about Matt Cardona, and called him Edge's, Edge's bitch. Oh my god. But Lucha, what are your thoughts on Joe Hendry, his music video on Matt Cardona, and did he earn the number 3 spot, or should he have been a little lower?
It's crazy how there's actually kind of a theme of should they, shouldn't they, based off the fact that there's a lot of people who have their spots or lost their spots because they didn't fight. Like, it's crazy. We want to talk about Josh Alexander being so low on the ranks because he didn't fight. He just had like a backstage segment or whatever. But Joe Hendry comes out and drops one of the craziest diss songs of all time, and that gets him this prestige. Like, don't get me wrong. This should be the number 1 selling song in America by next Thursday. And if Cardona would have came out at the Rumble with this, this whole thing being a theme, and Edge's bitch chant breaks out, holy hell.
Speaking of the Rumble, I'm so disappointed in what they did to Chelsea Green. I mean, she was one half of the Knockouts Tag Team Champions alongside her best friend. She went back to WWE, was signed for months, didn't have creative for her, and she debuts and gets eliminated in a few seconds. Like,
I think she was the one that decided to go back there. So I don't think it was her decision. So,
yeah, well, I guess if it was her decision, we have to respect it.
I think this is all a part of the plan. I think this is the creative, her elimination happening so damn fast. So, we gotta trust the process. But all I say is good luck, like they say.
May the force be with her.
Best of luck in your future endeavors.
Yeah. But anywho, back to Joe Hendry. Burt, Joe Hendry?
You say hilarious. I didn't know it's hilarious hurting people's feelings. You know what I mean? I didn't think it was funny. You know what I mean? I like Joe Hendry, but feel bad for Matt Cardona. That's kind of mean.
Moose called him Mid Cardona, if you guys remember.
But I think Matt's maybe moved past Edge. You know what I mean? Let's give him some credit.
Judging off how he reacted, I don't think he's moved past Edge. I think there's still something there because he's always going to be Edge's bitch.
He was a coach head.
I agree with Lucha. That's a hot song. That was a hot track. I've already downloaded as my ringtone and my ringback tone. If you remembers those. So,
if for those who know this, I got the chopped and screwed version of Edge's bitch as well, and it's fire.
R.I.P. DJ Screw.
R.I.P. Screw.
Edge's bitch is my voicemail. Like when you call me and I missed a call, that little music you hear, that's my Edge's bitch.
I'm waiting on the remix with Jillian Hall.
The hottest thing since sliced bread.
Waiting for it. I need it.
Well, anywho, very hilarious segment with Joe Hendry and Matt Cardona. I definitely, Lucha, you do bring up a good point. It's crazy that he did get the number 3 spot just because he's of that. It was a pretty hilarious segment, if you ask me. But I guess you can make a debate and say, hey, that's all he did. He should be lower. But
it's because he's super over right now.
Yeah.
That's why. Like he's way over. He's gonna be world champions. Maybe not this year, but he will be world champion eventually. He's way over.
He will. Yeah, definitely. All right, number 2, X Division champion Trey Miguel defeating 73-year-old Mike Jackson. And I have to say, if there was an honorable mention this week, it had to be Mike Jackson because homeboy at his age can still go. I hope that when I'm 73, I can still go too because most 73-year-olds are retired and are just relaxing. Mike Jackson, freaking doing old school at his age, man. But Lucha, what are your thoughts on Trey Miguel being number 2?
I figured it out. So somewhere in life, I'm not sure, but they swapped me and Mike Jackson's like inside feelings, like our bodies or whatever. Because like my spirit is in his body. That's why he's still out here balling. And when I stand up, I look like the Megazord in the intro of Power Rangers. And it just hurts all the time. So we're the same, That's me. I want my body back. Anyway, Mike Jackson. I want my body back. I want my spirit back. Give me my home so I can continue to electrify the professional wrestling world. Mm-hmm. Good win from Trey Miguel. It's good to have a champion. In where I call Champions Row, somewhere in the top 3. And this is a little too high for me personally with Trey. As I pull out my trusty dusty notebook. Actually, no, this is perfect for me. I was talking out of my ass. I had Trey Miguel at number 2 as well.
Burt, what are your thoughts on Trey Miguel being number 2? And do you have any comments about Mike Jackson being 73 years old and can still go?
Me.
Yeah. Well, let me say, if this doesn't prove that Trey Miguel is a good guy, I don't know what will. He goes and volunteers to hang out with the elderly. He goes to the elderly home. He hangs out with his senior the old buck Mike Jackson. He takes him on a field trip, gives him an X Division championship match on live TV.
Facts.
I don't know how you can't. This man's a saint. He should be number 1 forever.
So instead of the Big Brother program, Trey Miguel's got the grandson program.
Yeah, what a great human being Trey Miguel is.
I want to be somebody's grandson. That sounds lit.
Oh, I know, right? All right, number 1 ended up being one of the animals, Rich Swann. He is now number 1 contender for Josh Alexander's title at No Surrender. And honestly, I have no problem with Rich Swann winning. I actually called this last week. I said Rich Swann winning would make sense because you're adding to the story between Rich Swann and Maclin. Like, Steve Maclin beat Rich Swann. But the only reason he wasn't involved in the Golden Six Shooter was because he's not a former champion. So Rich Swann beating facing Josh Alexander after Steve Maclin just beat him, that adds to the story, and it'll probably add more fire to Steve Maclin's story. But Lucha, your thoughts on Rich Swann being number one contender and being number one?
Just for the record, where was Steve Maclin on this week's rankings?
Oh, crap. We skipped Steve Maclin.
Did we skip him?
Yeah, he was number 8. We talked about Jonathan Gresham, and then we just went to number...
Well, Steve Maclin should be... I think Steve Maclin should have been higher just because the promo that he said, just real quick, he had a great point. He's beat every single one of those people in that match. But it's like we said last week, it's going to happen where he's going to keep being overlooked. He's going to keep being overlooked. He's going to snap. And I think he's going to finally just it's going to come down to another match for a number one contender, and he's not going to be involved. And he's going to take one of those people out and insert himself in that match.
We didn't. Go ahead.
No. He just keeps being overlooked, but that's adding to the storyline with him.
Yeah, and we didn't just do him any favors either, just skipping over my man. So
I guess it makes sense because we overlooked him. Oh my God.
So now
well, you know what? Let's talk about both. Since we skipped Steve Maclin, let's talk about both. Okay.
Go ahead. No, because you're probably gonna say why I brought him up in the first place. We're just building Steve Maclin's case here because the guy who's the number one contender, like, bro, I pinned his shoulders to the streets a few weeks ago, and I find it a little disrespectful that I'm not in this conversation. So I don't even think it's going to come down to another number one contenders match. Steve just might start kicking ass every week.
Hold the show hot, you know what I mean? Like, start the show in the beginning with the chair in the ring and say he's not leaving until he gets a match. You know what I mean?
He's just going to come out and kick everybody's ass.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's kind of funny that Steve Maclin's number 8 and Rich Swann is number 1, considering the fact that Steve Maclin did beat Rich Swann. And now Rich Swann is number 1 contender. This is just adding more to Steve Maclin's storyline about him being overlooked, about him not getting an opportunity. I mean, how many world champions does he need to beat to get another opportunity?
Rich Swann did just survive 5 other world champions to be number 1 contender. He deserves to be number 1 contender. You heard during the match he never got a rematch versus Kenny Omega because that was a stipulation. He hasn't faced Josh in this run. So, and again, also, if we're going to put Mike Bailey at number 1 last week for winning a big match, and he didn't become number 1 contender, I have no problem putting Rich Swann at number 1, closing the show in a big match and becoming number 1 contender. So I'm fine with Rich Swann being number 1.
I don't have a problem with Rich Swann being number 1. He's earned it. I'm just saying, like, Steve Maclin beat him, and Steve Maclin. This is just adding to Steve Maclin's storyline.
Yeah, your cousin is pretty pissed, and like I said, he's gonna start kicking everybody's ass. So if I were you, I wouldn't answer the phone for the next few days.
I know he wouldn't say anything at dinner last night. I know he's pissed.
So he just sat down and just like looked at everybody intensely and drank Jameson while y'all ate. Chewed very angrily. Yes, he was very mad. Fuck.
Oh my God. Okay. That's hilarious. So we covered everyone now. Does anybody have any last minute comments before we wrap things up?
This was just a very controversial ranking here. This is a very controversial top 10. There's a lot of double standards over people who, like I said earlier, people lost their spot because they didn't wrestle, but then people didn't wrestle, and yet they're getting top 3s. I'm here for the controversy because controversy creates cash. I just also want to be the one to bring the injustices to the table for the committee to keep their eyes on. What are you, a hound of
justice now?
I'm the godfather of this here there power rankings, so I need to make sure we're following the 3 eyes one of the most important ones at that, and that is integrity.
What about intensity and intelligence?
Well, it's getting intense in these power rankings. This top 10, like, this has become real VIP because there's so much happening in Impact, starting to move around in Impact now. So, Rich Swann was probably like not even a thought last week's power rankings, but then my man jumps to number one. It's crazy.
Oh, with 10 spots though, it's not far-fetched to think that and not expect every champion to be there every week, because if that was the case, there'd only be 4 open spots. So for me to I have to make a case sometimes to not put a champion on there. And sometimes it is easier. I don't think there was any case not to put the Death Dolls on this week and not put the Machine Guns off the list. So, you know what I mean? But and where Josh is, I think he could have been a little higher because he's the world champion. I think that belt's obviously, same with Mickey's, is going to carry the most weight. So I think every week, those 2 champions are the ones you have to make you have to make a really strong case not to put them on the list. If they're just not even on the show, even if a video segment, then maybe. But they're the world champion. They should at least be on the top 10.
At least number 7.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the lowest Josh should ever be, is number 7.
I think that's the lowest he's probably been since maybe he was X Division champion or some shit.
And it's like we said last week, Mike Bailey went from number 1 and not even on the countdown. I mean, not even on the top 10. I don't even know if he was even close to being on it. So it's always going to change.
He was number 8 on mine just because he, didn't do too much. It was because I looked at it completely different. Because I expected the power rankings to be more of a same people in different spots for this week, just because, based off of who was on last week and how what their win, loss, and momentum and everything and story comes in. I didn't think there would have been too much of a change that we saw this week with people going from 13 to 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, there was some movement this week that I didn't necessarily expect to see, and people slipping down to where, like I said, I didn't think Mickey would be that low. I don't see how that's possible.
Well, Mickey being that low kind of sort of makes sense to me in the sense of, she suffered from not only not competing this week, but a champion that was below her competing and winning and getting,
Yeah.
So she was not, it wasn't necessarily anything against Mickey. It was more so Trey came and did what he's supposed to do. And so he got leapfrogged.
And only 3 total champions, I believe, in the top 10. So, 4. So that's still 4 champions. That's still pretty.
I actually think we have all the champs on the rankings this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Machine Guns on there?
Well, no, the Machine Guns weren't on.
Yeah. So,
and that's crazy because what were they last week? They had to have been decently ranked last week, just because we pointed to
our palms, yeah.
So if that's being the case, then that means that if you were looking at this top 10, I'm real quickly, I could maybe see taking the design off, because even though Sammy made it to the finals of that match, I think you could probably put someone on the top 10 ahead of him.
And that's especially crazy when you see that Sabin was also in the 6-shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So the Machine Guns, plural, weren't on the show, but there was a machine gun in the building who wrestled, who was in the main event. So, maybe there's a case that maybe they kind of got overlooked a little bit.
I would have, if I was going to put anybody in that match, from that match, I would have put Moose, just because from his segment where it seemed like he just manipulated the major players to go after Joe Hendry. And, anytime you have just a big man heel working out in the back, you know what I mean? He's just working out against the wall. I would have put Moose on instead of the design.
That's intense.
I think we've covered everything and all the numbers. I think you guys made great points. So anything else you guys want to say before we sign off?
We'll make sure to support all the content on TNAIW's YouTube page, Talking Bloody Nonsense. This show.
The one and only Mr. Craig, who we all love so very much.
Yes, the MIC Craig.
Because you can catch him here, you can catch him there, and you can catch him anywhere. Also, shout out to the homie Nixon.
Yes,
exactly.
And make sure you guys tune in live every Sunday at 8 Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Twitch for the actual review show. So, but with that being said, you guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever this video drops or whenever TNAIW releases a new video. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.